Welcome, my dear travelers. Tonight, we turn our gaze to a new chapter in the storied annals of Middle-earth, the Third Age. A hush has settled over battle-scarred lands, once shaken by the final deeds of the Second Age. The triumph of elves and men against the shadow lingers like distant thunder, an echo of valor and loss. Yet, in the stillness that follows, hope begins to take root among quiet forests and winding rivers. It is an era marked by slow fading and subtle beginnings, where once great realms yearn to be rebuilt and the whispers of old fears gather on the edges of thought. Before we continue, I want you, my lovely listeners, to comment down below where you're from and what time it currently is. Let the gentle breath of the wind and the soft glow of the evening sky guide you onward. Breathe deeply, let your mind rest, and allow the stories of kingship, courage, and hidden perils to lull you toward a tranquil realm of dreams. When the War of the Last Alliance concluded, the very slopes of Orodruin still bore the scorch of countless footsteps. The armies of elves and men had managed what few thought possible, toppling Sauron's physical form and bringing an uneasy quiet to the lands surrounding Mordor. Yet, victory came threaded with sorrow, for Gil-galad and Elendil, two of the mightiest leaders of their time, had perished in the final confrontation. At the heart of Sauron's defeat lay a single, fateful event: Isildur's refusal to destroy the One Ring. Standing at the brink of the cracks of doom, his hand still clasping the hilt of his father's shattered sword, he felt the power emanating from the ring. Overcome by what he perceived as his royal inheritance, and perhaps swayed by the unseen malice rooted in its making, he chose to keep it instead of casting it into the fire. Thus, the darkness that might have perished forever lingered, bound within the gold band now in the keeping of a mortal king. Not long after, Isildur's path took him northward, aiming to return to his ancestral seat in Arnar. But in the marshy lowlands of the Gladden Fields, his small company was ambushed. Orcs, remnants of Sauron's dispersed forces, attacked with ferocity. In the chaos, Isildur put on the ring to vanish from their eyes, attempting to escape into the dark river reeds. But the One Ring slipped from his finger, betraying him to Arrow and Flood. So passed the king who had spurned the last, best chance to rid Middle-earth of Sauron's malice. The ring vanished beneath the waters, presumed lost, and with it, a peril that would lie hidden for centuries. The great victory at Barad-dûr ushered in the Third Age, a time when the elves began to sense their fading presence in Middle-earth. Some departed over the sea, journeying to the undying lands, their hearts drawn by the call of an age passing. Others lingered, determined to guard what beauty remained. Rivendell, under Elrond's wise rule, became a sanctuary for lore and healing. Lothlorien, warded by Galadriel, stood as a timeless refuge of silver light under ancient Malorn trees. Yet neither realm could wholly forget the scars left by centuries of war. The realms of men, for their part, entered an era of cautious rebuilding. Arnor in the north preserved the lineage of Elendil, though its strength would eventually wane through division and internal strife. In the south, Gondor flourished under the heirs of Anarion, but yes, rising to renewed glory. White-walled cities dotted its riverbanks, and a proud navy patrolled the coasts. Statues of kings and stewards adorned halls of stone, standing testimony to the resilience of a people who had borne witness to the fall of both Morgoth and Sauron across ages. Yet in quiet moments, a subtle unease persisted, fed by the memory of an evil never entirely undone. Throughout the western lands, the Dunedain, descendants of Númenórean blood, worked to keep alive the legacy of their forefathers. Though far removed from the cataclysms of earlier eras, they maintained watch on roads, rivers, and remote passes, ever wary of scattered orcs or rumors of dark powers stirring. Where once the Valar had intervened to reshape the fate of Middle-earth, the Third Age placed greater responsibility upon mortal shoulders. Years drifted by in relative peace, but vigilance became the unspoken law. Beneath the surface of everyday life, secrets and unanswered questions lingered. Whispers of Sauron's spirit, enduring in hidden places, could not be silenced. Tales of the One Ring's demise were believed by many, but a few doubted the finality of its fate. In hushed corners of libraries, scribes recalled ancient prophecies that spoke of evil rising anew. Gandalf the Grey, one of several mysterious wanderers from the west, ventured discreetly among elves, men, and dwarves, gathering knowledge, yet revealing little of his deeper suspicions. Still, for a while, Middle-earth breathed in a calmer rhythm. Orc hordes had scattered, and the battered fortresses of Mordor lay silent, providing relief to those who had known nothing but centuries of strife. With the crowning of new kings and the forging of fresh alliances, the age seemed poised to mend old wounds. But even in the hush of peace, the sorrow of lost opportunity clung to memory, a soft lament that echoed in every ruined tower and abandoned battlefield. Thus, the Third Age began as a time both of healing and of looming questions. By the valor of many, Sauron's tyranny had been cast down, but not root and branch. Underneath the tranquil surface, the future stirred uneasily, awaiting the day when shadows might again rise to test the bonds forged by elves and men in that last great war. From the hushed aftermath of the last alliance, to new kingdoms emerged under the surviving heirs of Elendil, Arnor in the north and Gondor in the south. Though each bore the proud heritage of Númenor, their destinies diverged in ways neither realm foresaw, and their fates played a defining role in shaping the Third Age. In the northern lands, Arnor laid claim to vast stretches of fields, woods, and low hills that stretched westward toward the sea. Its capital, Numanus, graced the shores of Lake Nenual, a reflection of Numanus' grace, albeit in more modest form. The people of Arnor preserved many traditions of the Dunedae, including longer lifespans and a reverence for the law passed down from Elendil. Yet time would reveal the fragile unity among the northern lords. Over generations, internal disputes over succession frayed the once strong kingdom. Eventually, Arnor splintered into 3 smaller realms: Arthedae, Cardolan, and Rudor, with each claiming legitimacy to the High Kingship. Arthedain, ruled by the direct line of Esildur, remained faithful to the old ways and continued to revere Anúminas and Furnost as chief seats. Cardolan claimed the fertile lands near the Barrow Downs and along the Great East Road, while Rudor's lords guarded the mountainous frontier of the Trollshores. Initially, the 3 successor states of Arnor maintained cautious cooperation, but political rivalry and suspicion crept in, leaving them vulnerable to scattered threats that lurked beyond their borders. In time, all 3 kingdoms would face renewed peril in the form of secretive enemies stirring among the shadows. Far to the south, Gondor flourished more visibly. Founded by Isildur's nephew, Manel-Dale, the kingdom stretched across the wide valleys of the Anduin and beyond, boasting strongholds that stood as a testament to Númenórean architecture. The White City of Minas Anor, the river hub of Osgiliath, and the watchful citadel of Minas Ithil shone under the sun. Gondor was blessed with fertile lands and a strategic coastline, allowing it to grow in wealth and influence through trade and alliances. With able kings at the helm, Gondor repelled early raids by Easterlings from the east and corsairs from the southern seas, solidifying its reputation as a bastion of order. Yet Gondor, too, faced its share of tribulations. Calamities such as the Great Plague swept in from the east, devastating crops and leaving entire towns silent. Ambitious warlords from the south tested its borders, forcing the kingdom to fortify its coastal fiefs and watchtowers. Over time, the direct line of kings began to diminish. When the last king of Gondor vanished under grim circumstances, the rule of the realm fell to a line of stewards. These stewards bore authority in the king's stead, maintaining Gondor's defenses and preserving the monarchy's seat for an heir who never came. Thus began an era of stewardship, by law, temporary, yet destined to last for centuries. Meanwhile, in the north, the fractured realms of Arnor faced a subtler, but no less deadly menace. Rumors of foul sorcery crept through the deserted plains, fueling persistent conflicts with neighboring hillmen and hidden servants of evil. As Arthedain struggled to uphold Elendil's legacy, Cardolan and Rudor often suffered under the weight of internal discord and external threats. Over time, The northern Dunedae saw their fortunes dwindle. Once proud cities emptied and roads fell into disrepair, scattering remnants of the old kingdom into remote fortresses or watchposts. Still, amid these trials, the heirs of Isildur quietly endured. Wandering the wilderness, they became the rangers of the north, sworn to defend the free peoples from malevolent creatures and wandering bands of orcs. Their vigilance kept alive a glimmer of hope. Though tenuous, it carried forward the ancient lineage that had once defied Sauron beneath the slopes of Mount Doom. Thus, as the Third Age lengthened, Arnor and Gondor walked diverging paths. One kingdom splintered, its people thinning like echoes of an ancient song. The other towered in pride and strength, but behind its high walls, a growing sense of uncertainty loomed. And in both realms, watchful hearts could not forget. The shadow that once nearly consumed the world had never been wholly vanquished. Somewhere beyond the far frontiers, darkness bided its time, waiting to test the bonds of these realms in exile once more. As the Third Age lengthened, the waning strength of Arnor in the north and the steadfast vigilance of Gondor in the south formed the twin bulwarks of the realms in exile. Yet neither kingdom could fully guard against rumors that a new hidden power stirred beyond their borders. Whispers carried by wandering rangers and traveling merchants alike spoke of darkness taking root in the heart of Middle-earth. In time, eyes turned uneasily toward the vast wood called Greenwood the Great, a forest whose ancient trees, once tranquil, had begun to brood under a gathering shadow. Within the southern reaches of Greenwood, a fortress rose atop a bare hill. Its name was Dol Guldur, and to those brave enough to explore its vicinity, an unsettling presence could be felt clinging to the air. Strange creatures patrolled its outskirts at twilight. Travelers reported glimpses of orcs and wargs emerging from cave mouths. Rumors coalesced around a single figure known only as the Necromancer. Rumored to dabble in dark sorcery that conjured foul apparitions and spread fear among the wood elves who dwelt nearby. Few suspected that this necromancer might be Sauron himself, taking shape once more after his spirit fled the downfall of his body at the end of the Second Age. Elsewhere, leaders of the Free Peoples watched these developments with deep unease. Elrond of Rivendell, who maintained ties with the dwindling line of Arnor's heirs, heard troubling accounts of shadowy forces gathering in the wilds. Galadriel, Lady of Lothlorien, perceived changes in the flow of time and the health of the land. From the coasts of Lindon to the hidden glades of Mirkwood, a consensus emerged that some coordinated response was needed to address this unknown but rising threat. Thus was formed the White Council, bringing together the wisest among elves and the Istari, those mysterious wizards sent from the west. Foremost among these wizards was Saruman the White, and Gandalf the Grey. Saruman had studied the arts of ring lore and ancient knowledge more extensively than any other. Gandalf, for his part, wandered far and wide, gathering the stories of peoples both great and small. Radagast the Brown offered insight into nature's rhythms, though he preferred the secluded world of plants and beasts over council halls. Presiding from behind the scenes was Galadriel, whose wisdom shaped the council's aims. They met first in Rivendell, agreeing to share news and counsel on all threats that might endanger the Free Peoples. As the White Council debated the growing rumor that Sauron could be re-emerging, opinions diverged. Gandalf urged swift investigation of Dol Guldur, suspecting that the presence there might be none other than the ancient foe. Saruman, however, counseled patience, claiming the shadow would wither if unchallenged, or that it might be no more than a lesser spirit of Morgoth's domain. Some speculated that Saruman quietly nurtured personal ambitions, hoping to discover secrets of the One Ring for himself. Whether driven by caution or design, the council delayed direct confrontation for many years, allowing the necromancer's power to consolidate. During this uneasy period, later known as the Watchful Peace, Dol Guldur neither launched grand offensives nor revealed its master openly. The orcs of the Misty Mountains, though menacing, seldom rallied into large armies, and Mordor remained unoccupied by any organized force. Indeed, Sauron's ploy was to lull his adversaries into complacency. Gondor and the remnants of Arnor in particular had no wish for fresh war, believing themselves safe behind the Anduin's defenses and the vigilance of the White Council. In hushed corridors, kings and stewards alike prayed that the ancient terror had finally been laid to rest. Yet the shadow of Dol Guldur gradually extended over Greenwood, transforming its once sunlit paths into gloom-laden tunnels. Spider-haunted glens replaced bright clearings. The elves of Thranduil's kingdom withdrew northward to avoid the creeping darkness. Travelers grew fewer, deterred by the dread that emanated from the forest's heart. In hidden corners, anxious talk of Sauron's eventual return grew more persistent, spurring debate within the White Council as to whether their inaction might sow the seeds of a future disaster. Through the caution and discord that characterized the era, it became ever more evident that this necromancer was no mere spectre. Whether known or unknown, the influence of Sauron was once again weaving through the corners of Middle-earth, threatening all that the realms in exile had worked so hard to preserve. The elves, steadfast yet fading, the fragmenting Dunedain of the north, and Gondor watching its borders, all stood on the threshold of challenges that would test their resolve more deeply than any since the fall of Barad-dûr. And within the White Council's debates, the seeds of the next great struggle were quietly, inexorably taking root. In the decades and centuries that followed, the White Council's watchful, if hesitant, stance against Dol Guldur. Changes elsewhere in Middle-earth quietly gathered momentum. Far south of the old borders of Arnor and west of the plains once held by Gondor lay the broad, rolling grasslands of Calenarden. For a long age, this region served as a lesser populated province of the Southern Kingdom. But when the ravages of war and plague took their toll on Gondor, Calenarden's watchtowers stood half abandoned. Orc raids and nomadic threats seeped in from the misty mountains and beyond. Gondor's stewards, pressed by troubles on other fronts, found it increasingly difficult to defend those distant fields. It was then that a people known as the Eotheed, skilled riders hailing from the upper vales of the Anduin, rose to prominence. They had long been friends of Gondor in times of need, but in the face of menacing foes, they were sought out more urgently. Cirion, steward of Gondor, recognized that a strong ally could hold Calenarden against the tide of invasions. He extended a desperate plea for aid to Eorl the Young, the charismatic leader of the Eotheed. True to their tradition of loyalty, Eorl answered, leading a swift muster of cavalry southward. In the Battle of the Field of Celebrant, the Eotheid horsemen arrived in time to rout a threatening invasion, saving Gondor's forces from likely defeat. In gratitude, Cirion offered Eorl and his people the wide grasslands of Calenarden to settle and protect. Upon the green banks of the great river, the two leaders met in a solemn ceremony where Cirion swore Gondor's enduring friendship. Eorl, in turn, pledged the oath of Eorl, vowing that his people would ride to Gondor's defense whenever the steward or king might call. Thus the realm of Rohan was founded. Its new inhabitants, dubbed the Rohirrim, the horse lords in Gondor's tongue, breathed life into a land once left on the margins of the Southern Kingdom. Though the Rohirrim were a relatively young culture compared to the ancient lineages of elves and Dunedain, their ways held roots as deep as the rolling plains they now called home. Horses, cherished and almost kin to them, defined their identity. Their new capital, Adoras, arose at the foot of the White Mountains, crowned by the golden hall of Meduseld, a beacon of warmth amid the cool, windswept plains. Poets and minstrels sang of green meadows dappled with wildflowers, where the herds of the Mark galloped under open skies. Over time, Rohan weathered its share of hardships. Tribal conflicts simmered along the western frontier as Dunlin Dings, long at odds with Gondor, contested the new boundaries. Roving bands of orcs periodically tested the watchfulness of the Rohirrim, especially near the shadows creeping from the misty mountains. Yet the horse lords stood firm, proud not only of their skill in battle, but also of the unbreakable promise binding them to Gondor. Even in eras of relative peace, the riders kept vigilance over narrow passes and watchposts, always mindful that alliances and vigilance had forged their realm in the first place. This alliance with Gondor, anchored in the Oath of Eorl, shaped Rohan's sense of responsibility. Men grew up learning that the fate of the South Kingdom was intertwined with their own. While Gondor provided guidance in matters of law and diplomacy, Rohan excelled in swift warfare, sending forth cavalry that became legendary for its thunderous charge. Songs around hearthfires recounted the day Eorl's riders streamed across the field of Celebrant, forging a unity that neither distance nor adversity could sever. As the Third Age wore on, the Rohirrim grew into a decisive presence in the affairs of northwestern Middle-earth. Though they held no ancient libraries or elven forges, they honed an earthy wisdom born of open skies and ceaseless rides across the Mark. This bond to the land and to their steeds was as strong as any chain of steel. Where others turned to books or towers for solace, the horse lords found it in the rhythm of hooves, the whistle of wind over grass, and a pledge of loyalty that bound them to one another and to Gondor. With each generation, Adoras flourished, and Medusal's halls rang with the songs of chieftains and the laughter of a hardy folk. Between the ranges of the White Mountains and the courses of the Great River, the Rohirrim upheld a bright flame of vigilance. Though far from the gloom of Dol Guldur and the weighty counsels of the wise, they remained ready to answer any call. A steadfast ally whose swift riders would gallop into legend whenever the fortunes of Middle-earth demanded their valor. Even as the horse lords of Rohan carved out their place in Middle-earth's tapestry, new stirrings in the distant north began to reshape the fortunes of dwarves, men, and even the elusive folk known as hobbits. While the White Council kept vigilant watch on Dol Guldur, a different threat had long held sway over the lonely mountain. Smaug, a fearsome dragon whose arrival generations ago had forced the dwarves of Erebor into exile. Amid the quiet valleys and chill highlands, the north remained overshadowed by the rumor of this deadly presence. In earlier days, Thrain II and his father Thor attempted to restore the dwarves' diminished honor, yet hardship dogged them at every turn. Many of their kin wandered as smiths for hire or settled in distant lands, longing to reclaim the gold-laden halls once carved into the roots of the lonely mountain. Their scattered hopes found renewed purpose under Thorin Oakenshield, a descendant of those who had tasted dragonfire firsthand. Thorin, spirited yet burdened by the weight of his lineage, yearned to see Erebor restored and Smaug ousted. Unbeknownst to Thorin at first, the wizard Gandalf the Grey also shared an interest in driving the dragon from the north. Gandalf suspected that if Sauron, a being he believed was lurking anew in Dol Guldur, were to ally with a dragon, the free lands of the west would be greatly imperiled. By chance, Gandalf encountered Thorin in Bree and learned of his quest. Realizing that stealth and cunning would be needed as much as raw courage, the wizard proposed a curious addition to the company: Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit of the Shire. though untested in battle. Bilbo's resourcefulness and unassuming nature might prove vital in dealing with a vigilant dragon. Thus, the quest of Erebor was born. Thorin and his companions set out with trepidation, traveling through perilous lands until they reached the edges of the lonely mountain. Their journey, fraught with spider-haunted forests, hostile woodland realms, and the ever-present threat of Dol Guldur orc scouts, shaped a band of adventurers into a tightly knit fellowship. When they finally arrived at Erebor, Bilbo discovered a secret door that provided them entry. Inside, Smaug brooded over a hoard of treasure, ignorant of the creeping infiltration. Meanwhile, fate conspired to alter the balance of power in more ways than one. As Gandalf separated from Thorin's company, he joined forces with the White Council, who at last resolved to strike Dol Guldur. In a sudden offensive, they attacked the stronghold and succeeded in driving Sauron from Mirkwood, though he retreated to Mordor rather than face total defeat. This coordination of separate endeavors inadvertently weakened to threats at once. The necromancer's hold on the forest and the dragon's lonely dominion over the north. Back at the lonely mountain, Bilbo's quiet courage helped expose Smaug's only weak spot. Enraged, the dragon lashed out and descended upon Esgaroth, the lake town, in a storm of fire. There, a skilled bowman named Bardfeld Smaug with a single arrow, freeing both lake town survivors and the devastated lands around Erebor. Yet the cost was high, and disagreements over the dragon's hoard soon sparked tensions among elves, dwarves, and men at the foot of the mountain. This standoff erupted into the Battle of Five Armies, in which orcs and wargs, rallied by various lieutenants of evil, also vied for a share of plunder and power. Thorin, grievously wounded in the fray, at last reclaimed Erebor in spirit, but lost his life to his wounds. Bard and the Elven King found common cause in defending what remained of Dale and the mountain's approaches. The conflict ended in victory for the Free Peoples, albeit tempered by loss. Dane Ironfoot, a cousin to Thorin, assumed stewardship over the lonely mountain, restoring dwarf law and forging new alliances with Bard's renewed kingdom of Dale. Thus, the north was permanently changed. Where once a dragon's shadow smothered the land, now trade and friendship connected dwarven halls, human cities, and even woodland realms. The quest and its battles also reaffirmed Gandalf's suspicions. Pockets of darkness still lurked in Middle-earth, but determined allies could prevail when united by trust and necessity. While the immediate threat of Smaug had been ended, the echo of Sauron's power, though momentarily driven from Mirkwood, lingered on the edges of thought. Now, with Erebor reclaimed and Dale reborn, the stage was quietly being set for events of even greater consequence in the years to come. From the fresh triumphs and alliances forged at Erebor, another darkness continued to stir in the wider realm. though Smaug's demise freed the north from immediate terror. The shadow of Sauron had merely withdrawn from Mirkwood, retreating to Mordor, where he fortified his stronghold behind the Black Gate. With each passing year, the Dark Lord's servants multiplied: orcs, trolls, and other creatures bred in secrecy, awaiting the moment their master would declare open war upon Middle-earth. Unfinished business remained for Sauron, the One Ring. Lost centuries ago in the Anduin's depths, still existed somewhere in the world, carrying part of his essence and vital to his complete dominion. It was in the quiet farmland of the Shire, far from the watchful eyes of Gondor or the reach of northern Dunedain, that the ring resurfaced. A hobbit named Bilbo Baggins had found it inadvertently during his earlier travels and unwittingly brought it home. Over time, the wizard Gandalf grew suspicious of this trinket's true nature. Noticing Bilbo's uncommon longevity and sudden possessiveness. Careful research and a perilous journey to the archives of Gondor confirmed Gandalf's fear. This was the One Ring, Sauron's greatest weapon. Bilbo left the Shire, bequeathing the ring to his young relative, Frodo Baggins. Gandalf entrusted Frodo with a singular mission: to carry the ring away from the Shire and thus keep it out of Sauron's reach. Danger crowded every road, for the 9 ring wraiths, fallen kings enslaved by Sauron, had been sent forth to retrieve their master's lost treasure. Aided by loyal friends, Samwise Gamgee, Merry Brandy Buck, and Pippin took Frodo, journeyed in secret, evading the black-clad riders as they pressed ever closer. Eventually, Gandalf and Frodo's party converged in the hidden valley of Rivendell, where Elrond convened a council of elves, men, and dwarves. There, the fate of the ring was debated. A consensus emerged that it must be destroyed in the fires of Mount Doom, where Sauron had forged it. This perilous task fell to the Fellowship of the Ring. Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin, Gandalf, Aragorn, a ranger of the north, secretly the heir of Isildur, Boromir of Gondor, Legolas the elf, and Gimli the dwarf. 9 companions set forth, mirroring Sauron's 9 ring wraiths, determined to save Middle-earth from a second darkness. Their path led them first over snowy peaks, then through the mines of Moria, a once proud dwarven kingdom. Inside those dark halls, they discovered only echoes of tragedy. A swarm of orcs and a lurking Balrog forced the Fellowship into a desperate flight, culminating in Gandalf's confrontation with a fiery demon upon the narrow bridge of Khazad-dûm. There he fell, vanishing into the depths, leaving the remaining 8 companions shaken and leaderless. Grief pressed upon them as they emerged into the golden wood of Lothlorien, where Galadriel offered them rest, counsel, and gifts that would aid their journey. When at last they departed, drifting down the Anduin in elvish boats, the Fellowship found itself tested by inner struggles as well as external threats. Boromir, tempted by the ring's power, tried to seize it from Frodo. Realizing that the company's unity was fraying, Frodo chose to continue the mission alone. Faithful Sam insisted on accompanying him, while the rest of the Fellowship scattered. Some in pursuit of captured hobbits, others forging paths to call their allies to arms against Sauron's approaching legions. Thus the War of the Ring began in earnest. Sauron's armies, massing at Mordor and Isengard, swept across Rohan and Gondor with alarming speed. Saruman, once the head of the White Council, revealed his treachery by breeding an army of Uruk high in Isengard, sending them forth to subjugate Rohan. The Horse Lords wavered under the rule of an ailing King Theoden, ensnared by Saruman's agent Wormtongue. Yet Gandalf, returned from his ordeal in Moria as Gandalf the White, broke Saruman's influence over Theoden, rallying Rohan's knights. When Isengard struck, the Battle of the Hornburg at Helm's Deep ended in victory for the Rohirrim. Aided at dawn by Gandalf and riders from the north. Meanwhile, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli tracked the kidnapped hobbits, Merry and Pippin, into the realm of Fangorn Forest, encountering the ancient Ints, shepherds of the trees. Galvanized by the hobbits' pleas, the Ints marched on Isengard, toppling Saruman's fortress and flooding its pits, effectively ending his role as a major threat. This freed the Rohirrim to turn their attention to Gondor, which now faced Sauron's main onslaught. Tension mounted in Minas Tirith, seat of the steward Denethor, as legions of orcs poured from Mordor. The Battle of the Pelennor Fields erupted when Rohan, true to its ancient oath, arrived to bolster Gondor's battered defenses. The sight of Theoden's cavalry roaring across the plain rekindled hope in the city. Though Theoden himself fell in combat against the Lord of the Nazgul, the forces of Gondor and Rohan drove back the main body of Sauron's host. Aragorn, arriving from the southern coast with an unexpected fleet, secured through the paths of the dead, ensured victory on the Pelennor. Yet in the gloom beyond Minas Tirith's walls, the eye of Barad-dûr still blazed, and countless orcs remained. As armies regrouped, Gandalf proposed a bold gamble: draw Sauron's gaze outward and thereby provide Frodo a clearer chance to reach Mount Doom. Aragorn and Gandalf led an army to the gates of Mordor, challenging Sauron directly. Surrounded by overwhelming numbers of orcs, men of the East, and other foul creatures, the Free Peoples appeared on the brink of annihilation. But this act of defiance achieved its purpose. Sauron focused all his malice upon destroying the forces arrayed before him, leaving his rear defenses thin. In the meantime, Frodo and Sam struggled across the ash-laden wastes of Gorgoroth, their strength waning under the ring's growing weight. Even so, they pressed on, aided by the unlikely guide Gollum, whose tortured obsession with the ring both helped and endangered them. At last they reached Mount Doom's fiery depths. Frodo, succumbing to the ring's corrupt whisper, hesitated to destroy it. In that pivotal instant, Gollum leaped forward, seized the ring, and tumbled into the molten fire below. The ring was unmade at its source. Barad-dûr's foundations collapsed. Sauron's essence, bound to the One Ring, dissipated into a howling wind, and his armies scattered in disarray. Before the Black Gate, Gandalf's company watched the Dark Lord's fortress crumble. The land heaved, the plain split, and a great cloud rose in the east. Yet, in an eerie stillness that followed, a new dawn broke over Mordor's battered gates, a sunrise of long-awaited release for all Middle-earth. So ended the War of the Ring. Though the cost had been high, the ancient terror that began in the forging of the One Ring was at last undone. Many now spoke the name of Aragorn with reverence, seeing in him the potential to lead a renewed age. Merry and Pippin, once unassuming hobbits, returned as heroes to distant Shire fields. Legolas and Gimli journeyed onward, their friendship bridging elf and dwarf. Gandalf, having completed his appointed task, began to look toward new horizons. And somewhere on the ashen slopes of Mount Doom, Frodo and Sam were lifted from danger by the great eagles, their story sealed in memory as bearers of the ring's final doom. All across the free lands, bells tolled for the fallen and celebrations rose for the living. Yet as banners of triumph fluttered on the breeze, the future of Middle-earth stood poised on the threshold of transformation. The Third Age was drawing to its long foretold close, and in the days to come, a new shape of destiny would reveal itself to elves and men alike. In the quiet after Sauron's defeat, the free peoples of Middle-earth began tending to wounds both visible and unseen. Orcs and trolls fled or were vanquished in scattered clashes, leaving Gondor and Rohan to rebuild. Halls that once echoed with battle cries now filled with relief and murmurs of a new dawn. Yet despite the jubilation, the era would not truly close until the lineage of Elendil stepped forth to guide Gondor. That moment arrived when Aragorn, heir of Isildur, took up his rightful place in the White City. He entered Minas Tirith not as a conqueror, but as one committed to healing both land and spirit. With the approval of the steward and the acclamation of the people, he was crowned Elazar, heralding a renewed kingdom under a king tested by hardship and guided by ancient wisdom. Trumpets pealed across the high walls, while banners of silver and white unfurled in the wind, affirming Gondor's rebirth in the wake of war. Though Minas Tirith became a focal point of celebration, many still carried burdens from the conflict. Among them were 4 hobbits, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, who prepared to journey back to the Shire. On their way home, they discovered that Saruman, fallen from his once lofty station as head of the White Council, had taken a bitter refuge in the hobbits' peaceful land. Exploiting his cunning, he brought ruffians into the Shire, laying low its rural traditions. Determined to free their home, the hobbits mustered fellow villagers, rose up against Saruman's schemes, and cast him out. This final struggle, known as the Scouring of the Shire, highlighted how even distant corners of Middle-earth could not fully evade the evils unleashed by the Dark Lord's passing shadow. Amid these events, Aragorn continued shaping a realm worthy of its storied past. In tribute to the bravery of the Rohirrim, he strengthened the bond between the two kingdoms. Gondor recognized Rohan's key role in turning the tide of war, while Rohan swore anew to aid the White City in any future peril. Trade flourished as safe roads and guarded crossings reconnected regions long sundered by conflict. Even distant Erebor and Dale, revitalized after Smaug's demise, found common cause with the new age of peace. Across farmland and fortress alike, signs of renewal emerged, rekindling hopes that the scars of war would heal under just stewardship. Yet other chapters drew to a close. The elves, keepers of an older beauty, felt the approach of their final transition out of Middle-earth. One by one, they prepared for the journey west beyond the sea, guided by an ancient longing that mortal eyes could scarcely comprehend. Galadriel, whose power had preserved Lothlorien, made plans to depart, as did Elrond of Rivendell. Even Gandalf, who had completed his charge to unite the Free Peoples against Sauron, readied himself to leave once his labors were done. For the hobbits who had borne the brunt of the ring's burden, the end of the age held particular poignancy. Bilbo, aged beyond natural years, was chosen to sail with the elves, a rare honor accorded to a mortal who had carried the ring. Frodo, too, was granted passage across the sea. For the wounds dealt by Sauron's evil cut deeper than common eyes could see. On a hushed shore in the Grey Havens, they boarded a white ship, leaving behind well-wishers who understood that the burdens of the ring-bearers deserved rest in a realm free of all earthly shadows. Thus, as the elf lords and the wizards departed, the dominion of men came fully into its own. King Elessar set about restoring Gondor's cities, honoring alliances, and upholding justice. Rohan, thriving under Eomer, prospered through trade and shared vigilance. The scattered Dunedain of the north found fresh purpose in their reunited kingdom, while distant realms like Dale and the Lonely Mountain joined in fellowship. Though many living creatures still roamed the wild, and dark corners of the world would never be entirely purged of danger, the decisive triumph over Sauron had reshaped the course of the mortal lands. In these transformations, the Third Age drew to its definitive close. The old ways, elves walking under starlit canopies, hidden realms warded by rings of power, gave way to the pragmatic renewal of fields, roads, and halls. As the final white sails vanished over the western sea, Middle-earth settled into the hands of those with finite lifespans but boundless hope. No longer overshadowed by an imminent doom, the free peoples faced a horizon bright with possibilities, where courage and unity could still prevail against whatever unknown shadows might one day arise. Allow the soft hush of Middle-earth's twilight to enfold you, dear listener. We have journeyed through realms shaped by ancient hope, faced trials that tested hearts, and witnessed the dawn of a renewed world. Now, as the third age yields to the calm promise of tomorrow, let the gentle memory of courage and kinship guide you to rest. Imagining the last glimmer of sunset falling across high towers and open fields, remember the small acts of kindness that set even the mightiest tale in motion. Let peace settle like a warm blanket around you. Feel the gentle presence of old friends returning to hearth and home, their stories woven into the quiet tapestry of starlit skies. Release the day's burdens, and in the soothing breath of night, find comfort. May the echoes of this age lull you into slumber, accompanied by the softest promise of new beginnings. Sleep well.